Tonight, before we travel any farther, let us begin with something very small, a question that seems almost simple. Does everything in the universe truly obey the laws we believe we understand? We are accustomed to the image of a planet circling a star, a moon circling a planet, an order with a center. But somewhere out there may be moons that have moons of their own. A moon, a smaller orbit nested within a larger one. And farther still, there are planets that circle no sun at all. They have been flung from their native star systems, drifting through interstellar darkness. No sunrise, no sunset, only an invisible orbit around themselves. We call them rogue planets, wandering worlds. At first, that sounds lonely. A planet without light, without a center to return to. But if we think more slowly, we begin to see that their existence is a gentle reminder the universe is not as simple as we once imagined. There are structures that endure without a center. There are worlds that require no external light to preserve their inner warmth. And perhaps human beings are the same. Sometimes we feel as though we belong to no orbit, as though there is no clear sun left to illuminate our path, as though we are drifting in a vast stretch of darkness. But that does not mean we are without meaning. Carl Jung once wrote in the Red Book, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Perhaps those wandering planets are not entirely submerged in shadow. Beneath layers of frozen ice, there may be oceans kept warm by heat from a hidden core. No light yet still movement. No center yet still the quiet potential for life. At its deepest level, the universe is not a closed machine. It is a network of possibilities. And whenever we encounter something that seems not to belong to the usual rules, it is not a flaw in the universe. It is simply the limit of our way of seeing. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in Meditations, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." Perhaps what makes the universe beautiful is not its neatness, but its exceptions, its deviations, its unusual orbits. And as you lie there listening, let the thought that everything must have a perfect structure soften a little. Perhaps you do not need a fixed center in order to exist. Perhaps you are still turning very gently around a point somewhere within yourself. The universe is not simple, and that is not something to fear. It is simply wider, wide enough that even wandering bodies have their place. There is something profoundly quiet in the thought of a planet without a sun. Imagine no sunrise, no sunset, no shadows because there is no light to cast them. Only a sphere drifting through space, silent, cold, unseen by anyone. We call them rogue planets, wandering worlds. They once belonged to a star system, once revolved around a sun, once had an orbit, a center, an order. Then something happened. A gravitational interaction, an invisible collision between immense forces, and they were flung away, no longer belonging to anyone, no longer circling anything but themselves. At first, this feels like loss, as though exiled from the light. But if we slow down, science whispers something different. Beneath the thick ice crust of a rogue planet, there may exist liquid oceans kept warm not by a star, but by heat generated from within radioactivity, pressure, friction in the deep layers. No external light, yet an internal warmth. And their life may still move quietly. This idea is strange. We are used to believing that light is the prerequisite for everything. That there must be a sun, something radiant, something obvious to guide the way. But rogue planets offer another possibility. One can exist without being illuminated. Nietzsche once wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star." Perhaps chaos is not the end of order. Perhaps being thrown from orbit is not destruction. Sometimes it is the beginning of another form of existence. If you listen more closely, you will realize this chapter is not only about planets. There are seasons in our lives that resemble this. When familiar systems collapse, when a relationship ends, when work disappears, when a goal that once served as our sun fades away, we feel ourselves drifting, without direction, without light. But does that truly mean emptiness? Carl Jung wrote in the Red Book, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." Rogue planets have no surface light, but they have depth. Perhaps in the darker stretches of our lives, we too are being invited to descend to where a quiet source of heat is still burning. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up, if thou wilt ever dig." The outer light may vanish, but the inner warmth is not so easily extinguished as we imagine. Try to picture a rogue planet drifting through interstellar space. No one sees it. No telescope is pointed toward it. No civilization gives it a name. And yet, it exists. It still turns. It still holds its structure. It still has gravity enough to gather small grains of dust around it. Its existence does not depend on being observed. That can be a deeply healing thought. In a world where we are accustomed to being seen, acknowledged, validated, rogue planets whisper you can exist, even if no one shines upon you. You can continue turning even if no one notices your orbit. Even in complete darkness, there may be forms of life not like the ones we know, but alive nonetheless. The universe does not contain only what is radiant. It also holds deep, cold, and quiet regions. And stillness is not emptiness. Perhaps what frightens us about darkness is not the darkness itself, but our unfamiliarity with seeing ourselves within it. But as you lie here listening to your own breathing, you may notice something very simple. You do not need blazing light in order to exist. Your heart continues beating in the night. Your cells continue moving in the dark. Your consciousness continues whispering very soft thoughts. You, in a sense, are also a planet carrying warmth within. Perhaps you once felt flung from an orbit of your own. But that does not mean you are lost. It only means you are learning how to turn around yourself. And in that slow turning, a new rhythm emerges. A rhythm not dependent on outer light. A rhythm rising from the core. Let this idea settle like stardust in your mind. Not everything needs light in order to have meaning. Not every journey requires a sun to guide it. Sometimes, darkness is not the enemy. It is simply the space where you begin to realize that you have always carried your own warmth. And in that vastness, a planet drifting quietly still has its place. Just like you. In this immense universe without radiant brilliance, you are still here. Very real, very enough, and deeply at peace. There are deaths that do not arrive like an explosion, not radiant, not decisive. They come more quietly, like a collapse unfolding in the deepest layers while the surface still shines. In the universe, such a possibility exists, a kind of object known as a Thorne-Zhitkov object. Imagine a red supergiant star, vast, slow, nearing the final chapters of its life. And somewhere in its past, a neutron star, the collapsed core of a once living star, collides with it. The neutron star does not explode again. It does not disappear. It sinks inward. It is swallowed. And so a new entity forms. From the outside, you still see a familiar red star. Light continues to pour outward. Its spectrum trembles like any other. But deep within, where no eye can reach, rests a core so dense it defies imagination. A single teaspoon of its matter could weigh billions of tons. A death wrapped inside a life. A life carrying within it the core of a death. If you linger with this image long enough, it ceases to be merely physics. It becomes a metaphor. How many times in our own lives does this occur? There are parts of us that have ended. Relationships, beliefs, earlier versions of ourselves. They die, but they do not vanish completely. They sink. They compress. They become the core of someone new. Carl Jung once wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain. Consciousness does not arrive without compression, without pressure." A neutron star is born from the catastrophic collapse of a once brilliant sun. Gravity overcomes light. The core is crushed until nothing can escape, and yet within a thorn. Zhitkov object that core does not remain alone in cold isolation. It is held, enveloped. This extreme physics confounds astronomers. Nuclear reactions unfold in unfamiliar ways. Rare elements are forged in layers no one once imagined. In the anomaly, something new is created. Perhaps the human soul works similarly. The heaviest parts of us, dense memories, compressed grief, are not merely burdens. They may be the crucible in which a different element is formed, a deeper understanding, a quieter maturity. Nietzsche wrote in the Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star." But perhaps he might also have said, "You must endure the pressure." The boundary between life and death in a star is not a clean line. It is a transition zone, a threshold state. In the cosmos, there are entities not fully alive, yet not entirely dead. In the life of the psyche, we pass through such phases as well. You may still be walking still, working, still smiling and speaking, and yet something inside has ended, and you have not yet dissolved. Perhaps that is not a flaw. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." Loss is not erasure. It is transformation. A neutron star inside a supergiant is not meaningless disorder. It is a rare phase of transmutation. This extreme physics reminds us that existence is not always simple. There are intermediate states, hybrid beings, lives that carry within them the cores of former deaths. And perhaps instead of trying to eliminate the neutron core within ourselves, we might learn to hold it, not allowing it to destroy, not allowing it to consume, simply acknowledging it as present. A heavy part, a dense part, but a part of the whole. The universe does not rush its transformations. Stars can endure for millions of years in these in-between states. You can too. You do not need to dissolve the moment something ends. You may continue to shine, even while deep layers remain unresolved within you. And as you lie here now breathing slowly, let this thought sink softly inward. Perhaps you are not a simple entity. Perhaps you are layered, a surface of light, a dense core within, and both belong to you. In the darkness of the universe, stars that have died but not yet dispersed continue to radiate. Not perfect, not entirely stable, but still present. Like you. And within that presence, there is no need to resolve every paradox. Only to accept that the boundary between life and death, between old and new, between loss and continuation is gentler than we imagine. Let that thought settle, gently, like a red supergiant embracing its heavy core in the vast silence of the night. There was a time when people believed that space was emptiness, a silent stage upon which planets and stars perform their drama. Space was thought to be a backdrop, passive, unmoving. Then, in the early 20th century, an idea emerged. That space was not a backdrop. It was part of the play itself. That matter does not merely exist within space, it bends space. Imagine a soft sheet of fabric. Place a heavy sphere upon it. The fabric will dip. Now roll a small marble across its surface and it will not travel in a straight line. It will curve. Light does the same. Somewhere in the universe there are quasars, brilliant galactic cores so distant that their light takes billions of years to reach us. And between us and such a quasar, there may exist another galaxy. This galaxy does not emit any extraordinary light. It does not shout its presence, but its mass is sufficient to bend the space around it. The light from the quasar passes through this curved region and is deflected. The result: instead of one bright point, we see two. Two quasars, two identical images. But in truth, there is only one. This phenomenon is called gravitational lensing. A galaxy acting as a vast cosmic lens, bending the light of what lies behind it. If you remain with this thought long enough, something begins to shift in the way you see reality. For if space can curve, if light does not travel in absolute straight lines, then what we see is not always the whole story. Perhaps two things we believe are separate are in fact a single source of light seen through different arcs of curvature. In life, this happens as well. We view an event through our memory. Another views the same event through theirs. Two images, one source. Augustine once wrote in Confessions, "What then is time if no one asks me, I know. If I wish to explain it to him who asks, I know not." Time too bends in its own way. In the case of a double quasar, the light does not arrive simultaneously. Because it travels along two different paths around the intervening galaxy, changes occurring at the quasar may appear in one copy first and in the other months, even years later. As though the universe were saying the same event may reach each observer at a different time. Space is not flat. Time is not synchronized. Reality is softer than we think. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." Perhaps what he spoke was inscribed into the structure of the cosmos long ago. When you see 2 points of light, do not rush to conclude there are 2 sources. When you see yourself and another as different, do not be certain those lights do not originate from a deeper unity. Space can curve. Perception can too. There are memories bent by time, pains magnified by perspective, things that seem doubled only because we have not yet perceived the silent galaxy deflecting the path of light. And the strangest part, that very bending allows us to see what is far away. Without gravitational lensing, we would never observe certain quasars at the edge of the universe. Distortion becomes an instrument of perception. The curves in your life may be similar. Experiences that altered your angle of vision losses, collisions with reality, they may cause the light within you to deviate from a straight path. And yet because of them, you see what you could not see before. Carl Jung once wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, "The most intense conflicts, if overcome, leave behind a sense of security and calm that is not easily disturbed." Perhaps because after passing through such curves, we understand that reality is not as simple as we once believed, and that is not frightening. It is simply wider. Imagine yourself gazing at the night sky. 2 identical points of light shimmer. You know there is only one. Between you and it lie billions of light years, a silent galaxy space curved by invisible gravity. Everything you see has passed through those arcs before touching your eyes. Just as every thought you hold has passed through memory, through emotion, through layers of experience before becoming what you call truth. If something in your life feels distorted, perhaps it is not error. Perhaps it is structure. Space is not empty. It bends. And you can bend as well, not to break, only to adapt. In this quiet night, let the thought that reality has curvature settle gently like slow light. Not everything must be straight. Not everything must run in parallel lines. There are detours that light must travel before reaching you, and perhaps because of those curves you see more than a simple straight line would ever reveal. Let the vast sky softly curve around you, and within that gentleness, allow yourself to loosen. Gently, like light quietly bending around a distant galaxy before arriving in your night. There are deaths that arrive like a candle slowly fading. Gentle, silent, almost unnoticed. But there are also deaths that come like a sun erupting. In 2006, astronomers observed an explosion known as SN 2006 GEY. At first, it was only a strange point of light in a distant galaxy. Then it grew brighter, and brighter still, until it became one of the most luminous supernovae ever recorded, tens, even hundreds of times brighter than a typical stellar explosion. For a time, its light rivaled that of an entire small galaxy. Try to imagine that. A star that had lived quietly for millions of years, fusing hydrogen into helium-helium, into carbon-carbon, into heavier elements, and then in a brief moment, it released more energy than in all its previous life combined. A death more radiant than the life before it. The physics behind such explosions is extreme. In the core of a sufficiently massive star, temperatures can rise so high that light itself, high-energy photons, begins to transform into pairs of matter and antimatter. When this happens, the pressure holding the star in balance suddenly weakens. Gravity gains the upper hand, the core collapses, and in that catastrophic imbalance, an explosion nearly tears the entire structure apart. No core remains. No neutron star. No black hole. Only light and stardust spreading into space. But this is not meaningless destruction. These explosions are where heavy elements are forged. The iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, the oxygen you are breathing right now. All of it was once born inside a supernova. Carl Sagan wrote in Cosmos, "The nitrogen in our DNA, the calcium in our teeth, the iron in our blood, the carbon in our apple pies were made in the interiors of collapsing stars. We carry within us the memory of explosions." When you place your hand upon your chest and feel your heartbeat, remember that the iron circulating through your veins once lay in the core of a dying star. This thought can make death feel a little less frightening. Because in the universe, an ending is not a stopping point. It is transformation. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "All things are changing, and thou thyself art in continuous mutation, and in a manner in continuous destruction." Continuous destruction is not catastrophe. It is nature. A star may live for millions of years in a stable, gradual, almost uneventful state. Yet the moment of collapse is the moment that creates something new. There are seasons in our own lives that resemble this, an ending too intense, an event too large, a personal explosion that causes old structures to fall apart. We may see it as failure, as loss, as something beyond the scale of what we can bear. But if we look through the eyes of the universe, perhaps that is where new elements are being formed. Nietzsche wrote in Ecce Homo, "What does not kill me makes me stronger." The phrase is often simplified, but in a cosmic context, it holds another depth. What does not kill you may alter your structure, and even what kills an older version of you may create the raw material for another. Imagine a massive star in its final moments. It does not fade quietly. It does not retreat. It erupts. Not to prove anything, only because its structure has reached the point of transformation. The universe does not mourn this. It receives it. Light spreads outward. Stardust drifts away. New clouds of matter begin to gather. Elsewhere, a new star system forms, a new planet, a new being. Perhaps you are lying here tonight after some explosion in your own life, and you feel tired, hollow, as though everything has been torn apart. But if the universe is a living whole, as Marcus Aurelius suggested, constantly regard the universe as one living being, having one substance and one soul. Meditations. Then you are not outside this process. What has collapsed within you may be providing material for something not yet formed. A supernova beyond ordinary scale is not an error. It is simply a higher intensity of a universal law. Everything changes, and within that change there is a fierce beauty. But tonight, we do not need to look at that fierceness with fear. See it instead as a deep breath of the universe, a powerful inhalation, brilliant, then dissolving. The light of SN 2006 GY reached us after tens of millions of years, an echo from a distant past. And when it arrived, it was no longer destruction, it was simply light. Let this thought settle softly. There are endings more radiant than the quiet years that preceded them. There are moments that seem too vast to endure, yet contain the seeds of what comes next. And in the stillness of this night, as you gently release the weight of your body, remember this. You are made of stellar explosions. You carry within you the memory of light once beyond measure. Even your most intense moments are only part of a greater flow. Let the distant universe blaze as it will, and you here need only breathe, gently. At the center of every galaxy there is a darkness, not an empty darkness, but a point so dense that even light cannot escape. We call it a supermassive black hole. At the center of our own Milky Way, some 26,000 light-years away, there exists such a presence. Sagittarius, a star. It does not shine like a star. It does not blaze like a supernova. It does not bend light in a way we can directly see with our eyes. It simply is silent, and yet its immense mass holds hundreds of billions of stars in their orbits, a dark point that allows the entire structure to exist. Sometimes matter falls toward a black hole. Not all of it is swallowed at once. Some forms an accretion disk, matter spiraling inward, heating, glowing fiercely. And from that central region, two jets of energy shoot outward in opposite directions, vast streams extending thousands of light years. A concentrated current of energy, sharp and focused, piercing through the surrounding darkness. The image is strange. From a dark point, a place without light, emerge some of the most powerful beams in the universe. Power born from silence. Lao Tzu wrote in the Tao Te Ching, 30 spokes share the wheel's hub. It is the center hole that makes it useful. The empty center is what allows the wheel to turn. A black hole, in a sense, is the hollow of a galaxy. And yet it is precisely this that gives the galaxy structure. Not all strength announces itself. There are strengths that do not need to shine. There may be places in your own life that resemble this. The dark spaces you do not speak about, the memories you do not share, the pain you keep within. You may think they are only burdens, only shadows, but seen through the lens of the universe, perhaps they are gravitational centers. They shape your orbit. They draw you around a deeper core. They focus your energy in ways you never expected. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. What obstructs you becomes the path." A black hole might appear to be absolute ending, yet from that collapse emerge jets stretching across thousands of light years, energy not scattered, not chaotic, but directed and clear. Perhaps within your own soul there exists such a fountain, a focused current of energy born from what you once believed was destruction. Carl Jung wrote in the Red Book, The spirit of the depths taught me that my life is encompassed by the spiritual. He spoke of the spirit of the depths, not the spirit of the surface, not of dazzling brightness, but of depth. A black hole is a perfect symbol of this. It is not loud. It does not seek proof. It does not require visibility, and yet everything moves around it. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a galaxy, gazing toward its center. You would not see light from the black hole itself, but you would see stars circling gas clouds stretched into arcs, and sometimes long luminous jets shooting like arrows from the dark. Perhaps in your life you have passed through a collapse. Something ended completely. An older version of you dissolved, and you thought it was a void. But perhaps from that very point, new energy began to be directed, not scattered at random, but concentrated. Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "I say unto you, one must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star. And yet, to give birth to such a star, there must first be a core heavy enough, a depth profound enough. Silent strength does not need to shout. It does not require light to prove its existence. It simply remains, and everything around it finds its orbit. As you lie here now listening to your own breath, perhaps you can sense whether such a center exists within you. A quiet point. A darkness not driven away, not needing to be filled, not needing to be repaired. Simply present. Perhaps that point is what keeps you from dissolving. Perhaps from there, a quiet current of energy is being gathered. The universe does not fear its own darkness. A galaxy does not attempt to remove the black hole at its center. It accepts it and revolves around it. You may do the same. Instead of trying to erase your dark regions, let them remain. Over time, you may discover that from that stillness, a new stream of energy begins to form. Not loud, not flamboyant, but strong enough to shape your entire orbit. At the center of the galaxy is a dark point, and that point keeps everything from dissolving into chaos. Within you, it may be the same, and tonight, you need not do anything with it. Only breathe, and let that stillness hold you as a galaxy turns gently around its unseen center. After gazing into the deep, dark centers of galaxies, perhaps it is time to lift our eyes and look somewhere nearer. Not near in the sense of footsteps, but near in the scale of the cosmos, just over 4 light years away. A distance light itself needs more than 4 years to cross. Yet on the map of the night sky, it is a neighbor. That star system is called Alpha Centauri. 3 stars turning around one another in a slow celestial dance. Alpha Centauri, a Alpha Centauri b, and a little farther out, Proxima Centauri. Proxima, a faint red dwarf, not brilliant like our sun, but steady, enduring, quiet. And around that, Proxima orbits a planet. Proxima b. When astronomers announced its discovery, what made many people fall silent was not its size, not its orbital period, but its position. It lies within the habitable zone, the region where liquid water could exist on the surface. This does not mean there are oceans. It does not mean there are forests. It does not mean there are beings gazing up at their own sky, but it does mean there is possibility. And in a universe, this vast, sometimes possibility alone is enough to kindle something. Blaise Pascal once wrote in Pensées, "The eternal silence of these infinite spaces terrifies me." The eternal silence of infinite spaces frightened him, perhaps because he looked upward and saw distances too immense to grasp. But what happens when we know that just over 4 light years away, another planet is turning another world that may have its own dawn? Alpha Centauri is not a nameless blur. It is the first destination humanity dreams of when speaking of interstellar travel. If one day we send a vessel at the fastest speed we can manage, Proxima b may be the first place we reach. And this changes the feeling of loneliness. For cosmic loneliness is not merely the absence of others, it is the absence of possibility of others. And Proxima b keeps that possibility open. Carl Sagan wrote in pale blue dots somewhere, "Something incredible is waiting to be known." Not necessarily at some unreachable edge. Perhaps right next door. As you lie here tonight listening softly, imagine Proxima b turning slowly around its red dwarf star. Perhaps it is tidally locked, one face always turned toward its sun, the other immersed in endless night. A world divided in two, one half bright, one half dark. And yet, along the narrow boundary between them, there may be a thin band where temperatures are gentle enough for water to endure. A transition zone, a twilight zone. Perhaps life itself resembles this, not entirely light, not entirely dark, but dwelling at the boundary. Alpha Centauri, 4 light-years away, reminds us that the universe is not merely cold emptiness. It is a network of near and distant star systems, overlapping orbits, quiet movements. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Dwell on the beauty of life. Watch the stars and see yourself running with them. Watch the stars and see yourself running with them." When you think of Alpha Centauri, you are doing just that. You are extending your mind to a star system more than 4 light-years away. That distance does not make you smaller. It makes you wider. Perhaps the most beautiful thing about Proxima b is not the possibility of life. It is the possibility that we are not entirely alone. And even if there are no living beings there, even if it is only a rocky sphere orbiting a red dwarf, the thought that another world exists in parallel with us is enough to open the heart. Hope does not always require proof. Sometimes it only requires an orbit. Nietzsche wrote in "Thus spoke Zarathustra." The higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly. Perhaps when we lift our gaze beyond Earth, we are not escaping. We are flying. Not to abandon this place, but to understand that this place is not all there is. Alpha Centauri reminds us that the universe is not closed. It has neighbors. And in this quiet night, as you gently release the weight of your body, let the thought settle that just over 4 light-years away, another world is turning. It does not know you. You do not know it. Yet both of you exist within the same gravitational web, within the same cosmic structure. That connection needs no words, only a distance vast enough to awaken hope. And within that gentle hope there is a lightness. You are not isolated in darkness. You are in the midst of a universe where even the nearest stars whisper that there is more than what you see. Let that thought softly carry you towards sleep, like a distant planet turning around its star quietly, steadily, and full of possibility. If Alpha Centauri was the first whisper that we are not alone, then the other stars around us form a quiet chorus. Ross 128, Wolf 359, Tau Ceti. Names that sound technical, not poetic, not radiant. They are not the brilliant Sirius, nor the crimson Betelgeuse glowing on Orion's shoulder. They are dim, small, silent. And yet sometimes it is precisely that silence which carries the longest promise. Ross 128 is a red dwarf star about 11 light-years away. It does not flare violently. It does not tremble with the turbulence of many younger stars. It is stable, and around it orbits a rocky planet. Ross 128b, near the region where liquid water might exist. Wolf 359, also a red dwarf, lies about 7.8 light-years from us. Tau Ceti, nearly 12 light-years distant, resembles our Sun more closely and may host several planets of its own. These systems promise nothing certain. They do not guarantee life, but they open a possibility. And sometimes in the human journey, possibility is enough to illuminate a direction. Carl Sagan once wrote in Cosmos, "Imagination will often carry us to worlds that never were, but without it, we go nowhere." Imagination carries us to worlds that may not yet exist, but without it, we remain still. Those quiet stars are not only targets for telescopes, they are targets for imagination. And within that imagining, we glimpse the future of our species. Perhaps one day, when our sun grows old and swells into a red giant, small stars like Ross 128 will continue to burn. Red dwarfs can live for tens, even hundreds of billions of years, far longer than the lifespans of brighter stars. They are not loud, but they endure. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Adapt yourself to the things among which your lot has been cast. Adapt to the circumstances in which you are placed." Perhaps small stars have done this all along. They do not try to become blazing suns. They do not strive for spectacle. They simply burn in their own way. Slowly, steadily, for a very long time. There is something deeply healing in thinking of stars like these. In a world that pulls us toward speed, toward brilliance, toward moments of dazzling intensity, the universe quietly suggests that the future may belong to what is patient. Wolf 359 does not draw the naked eye, yet it remains, turning, burning, waiting. Tau Ceti, with its possible planets, does not proclaim itself as a second Earth. It simply opens a door. Perhaps the future of humanity will not lie in noisy conquest, but in slow transition. One day, ships may set course toward those stars, not because they are the brightest, but because they are stable enough to become home. Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "You must be ready to burn yourself in your own flame. How could you become new if you have not first become ashes? Yet before becoming ashes and being reborn, perhaps we need somewhere to continue burning." Red dwarfs show another way of existing, not to burn fiercely for a short while, but to burn gently for an immense span of time. Perhaps in your own life you are searching for such a star, something not dramatic, not loud, but steady enough to build a future around. Ross 128, Wolf 359, Tau Ceti, they promise no glory. They simply exist. And in that existence, there is a quiet lesson: the future does not always belong to what shines most brightly. It may belong to what endures most faithfully. As you lie here within the slow rhythm of night, imagine those stars burning somewhere in the dark. No one sees them with the naked eye, yet they remain, like your quiet dreams, your unspoken plans, your hopes not yet formed. They need not explode. They need only continue to burn. And if one day human beings walk upon a world around Ross 128 or Tau Ceti or another red dwarf star, that journey will have begun with thoughts as quiet as these. With looking up at the sky and realizing there is more than one place that might become home. Let that thought spread gently. Not a distant and frightening future, but a future near enough to keep hope alive. The quiet stars are waiting, and perhaps so are you. No need to blaze brilliantly right now. Only continue to burn in your own way. Slowly, steadily, and full of possibility. There are worlds that need not be distant to leave us in awe. Sometimes they dwell within our own solar system. Enceladus, a small moon orbiting Saturn. If you observe it through a telescope, you see a white sphere, bright, ice-covered, frigid. It has no thick atmosphere, no forests, no blue oceans like Earth, only ice. And yet, in the early 21st century, the spacecraft Cassini flew past Enceladus and discovered something unexpected. From its southern pole, plumes of material erupted into space like hidden fountains breaking through the dark sky. When scientists analyzed the icy particles within those plumes, they found liquid water, hydrogen, carbon dioxide, and methane. Methane, a simple molecule, but on Earth it is often intertwined with life. This does not prove that microorganisms dwell beneath Enceladus's ice, but it opens a possibility. Beneath tens of kilometers of frozen crust, there may exist a subsurface ocean kept warm not by sunlight, but by tidal forces and gravitational friction from Saturn. No light, yet warmth. No sky, yet water. And where liquid water exists, life, at least as we know it, may also exist. If you linger with this thought long enough, you begin to realize that Enceladus is not merely a moon. It is a symbol. Its surface appears cold and motionless, but beneath there may be movement. How often is life like this? There are people who appear calm, closed, cold, and yet beneath that icy surface there may be an ocean of feeling. Carl Jung wrote in The Undiscovered Self, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. Enceladus teaches this lesson in the language of the cosmos. If we look only at the surface, we miss the ocean. If we look only at what is bright and loud, we fail to notice life whispering beneath the ice. Methane in those plumes is not certain proof, but it is a sign, a suggestion that beneath darkness and pressure, complex chemistry still unfolds. And there is something gentle in that thought. It tells us that life does not necessarily depend on blazing light. It may germinate in darkness under pressure in conditions once thought too harsh. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Dwell on the beauty of life." The beauty of life does not reside only in what is easily seen. It may dwell in an ocean hidden beneath ice billions of kilometers from Earth. Enceladus circles Saturn in silence. No sunrise like ours. No wind. No crashing waves. Yet if that ocean exists, there may be microorganisms living on chemical energy, much like the organisms near hydrothermal vents in our own deep seas. No sun required. Only an inner source of energy. Perhaps the same is true within you. There may be parts of you growing quietly, even when the surface appears cold. Ideas not yet spoken. Dreams not yet acknowledged. Emotions not yet shared. They do not require dazzling light to exist. They need only an inner warmth. Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "There is still a great deal of chaos within me. Inner chaos is not always destruction. It may be the movement of a hidden ocean. As you lie here, imagine standing upon the surface of Enceladus. Everything white, still, cold. And yet beneath that ice there may be currents. There may be life. This thought is not loud. It does not demand certainty. It simply invites you to remain open to the possibility that the surface is never the whole story. Enceladus offers a gentle lesson. Do not judge a world solely by its shell. And do not judge yourself only by what others can see. You too may carry a hidden ocean, a deep, warm place nurturing something unseen. And like the plumes at Enceladus's south pole, sometimes a fragment of that ocean escapes a tear, a sudden idea, a sincere word. That is not weakness. It is a sign of life. In the deep darkness of space, a small moon may still contain an ocean. In the quiet of this night, so may you. No need to prove, no need to dazzle. Only continue to exist, to move, to keep warm the ocean within you. And know that even beneath the coldest ice, life may be waiting. We often tell the story of our origins as something deeply local. Life began in the primordial oceans of Earth. Simple molecules combined. Lightning, heat, time. And from there, through billions of years of evolution, emerged bacteria, plants, animals, and at last human beings. It is a beautiful story, but there is another possibility, gentler and wider. What if life did not begin here? The hypothesis of panspermia suggests that microbial seeds may have traveled through space, hidden within fragments of rock ejected from a distant world, drifting across the cold vastness until they fell upon a young Earth. Not as complex creatures, only as simple living molecules, primitive cells, but enough to begin. This idea does not deny science. It simply enlarges the frame. Life may not be an isolated event, but a current, an ancient migration. Carl Sagan wrote in Cosmos, "We are a way for the cosmos to know itself." If that is so, then perhaps life does not belong to a single planet. It belongs to the universe. Imagine a small stone blasted from a planetary surface by a violent impact. Within its core, shielded from the harshest radiation, a few dormant bacteria rest. The stone drifts through space for millions of years. No warm sunlight, no air, only cold and stillness. And then one day it falls upon a new world. Water, heat, chemistry, and life continues. If this has ever happened, then we beings lying here listening in the quiet may be the descendants of a journey longer than any voyage in human history. Nietzsche wrote in The Gay Science, "Be careful lest in casting out your demon you exorcise the best thing in you." Perhaps when we try to confine our origin to a single point, we risk losing something beautiful, the sense that we belong to a larger story. If life is an ancient traveler, then our home is not only Earth. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "My city and my fatherland, so far as I am, Antoninus, is Rome. But so far as I am a human being, it is the world." Perhaps we may go one step further. As living beings, our homeland may be the universe. This thought does not distance us from Earth. It deepens our reverence for it. For if life has crossed immeasurable distances to arrive here, then this planet is not a trivial accident. It is a harbor, and perhaps in some distant future life from Earth will continue the journey. Fragments of rock ejected by great impacts may carry our microbes to other worlds. One day on a planet around Ross 128 or Tau Ceti, there may exist life whose ancestry traces back to here. Life does not remain still. It moves. Jung wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." Placed within a cosmic context, this becomes deeper still. Life is not merely where it began. It is where it continues. And you, a small being in a quiet room, may be part of that migration. You need not travel anywhere. Your existence alone is already the result of billions of years of movement and transformation. Feel that gently. Your body is composed of elements forged in stars, and perhaps the first molecules of life once drifted through space. You do not belong only to a place. You belong to a journey, and within that journey there is no haste. Stones may drift for millions of years before touching ground. Life may sleep before it awakens. Perhaps within you there are parts still dormant, potentials not yet stirred, directions not yet clear. They do not need to erupt tonight. They may wait, like a seed hidden within cold stone, waiting for a new world. As you lie here, let the thought that you are part of that ancient voyage spread softly through your mind. Not as something immense to carry, but as a quiet comfort. You are not an accident. You are the result of a current. And that current did not begin here and may not end here. Let yourself drift with that thought. Gently. like a small stone traveling silently among the stars, carrying within it a seed of life not yet known. When you look up at the night sky, you may see a handful of stars. If the darkness is deep enough, you may glimpse the faint band of the Milky Way stretching across the heavens. But what you are seeing is only a very small slice of a structure far greater. The Milky Way is not alone. It belongs to a modest gathering of galaxies known as the Local Group. That group in turn is part of a far vaster structure, an immense supercluster called the Laniakea supercluster. Laniakea in Hawaiian means immense heaven, a boundless sky. The name itself feels like a whisper. Within this structure, more than 100,000 galaxies move within an invisible web of gravity, and our Milky Way is only a small point within that current. Imagine this gently. You are not merely lying on a planet orbiting a star. You are within a galaxy, drifting inside a supercluster that itself moves among other vast formations in an expanding universe. These motions are too slow for you to feel, yet they are happening. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Constantly regard the universe as one living being, having one substance and one soul." Seen this way, Laniakea is not just a collection of galaxies. It is like a river. Galaxies do not stand still. They flow. Under gravity's influence, everything drifts toward a region known as the Great Attractor. We do not see it clearly, but we perceive its presence in the movement of galaxies. Much like in your own life, there are forces you cannot see, yet still feel. Tendencies, longings, fears. They shape your current. And like the galaxies, you may not control the entire flow, but you are part of it. Carl Jung wrote in Modern Man, In Search of a Soul, "In all chaos, there is a cosmos in all disorder, a secret order." At the scale of superclusters, the universe may appear chaotic, hundreds of thousands of galaxies, billions of stars in each. But when astronomers map their motion, a structure emerges. Not random, not scattered. A network. Enormous filaments link clusters of galaxies, and between them stretch vast voids. Like the neural web within your brain, like the relationships within your life. You may feel alone at times, but at a deeper level, you are always connected. Connected to family, to friends, to strangers living in the same era, and deeper still connected to the architecture of the cosmos. Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star." Perhaps this is true even at the cosmic scale. From tiny fluctuations in matter after the Big Bang over billions of years, superclusters formed. From primordial turbulence, order arose. Within that order, a galaxy. Within that galaxy, a star. Around that star, a planet. And upon that planet, a being listening to this story. When you think of yourself as small, try to think differently. You are not small in the sense of being abandoned. You are small in the sense of being a subtle part within an immense structure, like a cell within a body. You need not be the whole body to matter. You need only be yourself in your place. Laniakea is moving. The Milky Way is moving. The solar system is moving. And you in this quiet room are moving too. Not loudly, not dramatically, simply drifting. Let that thought soothe you. You do not have to steer everything alone. You do not have to comprehend the entire cosmic structure. The universe does not require that you understand it. It is simply being what it is, and you may do the same. Just be yourself. A small point within a greater network. A low note in a symphony, billions of years long. As you breathe in, imagine yourself inhaling a part of that current. As you breathe out, let your small worries dissolve into the larger web. You are not separate. You are held by the same forces that bind galaxies together. And as the night continues to drift, as the Milky Way turns quietly, as Laniakea flows toward the great attractor, you may let go. No need to be grand. No need to become a star. Only remember that even a small point is an indispensable part of the immense heaven. After journeying through crowded superclusters, through galactic networks woven like the veins of the cosmos tonight, let us move in the opposite direction. Toward the places where there is almost nothing. Between the luminous filaments of galaxies lie vast dark regions called cosmic voids, immense emptinesses in space. Some voids stretch across hundreds of millions of light years. If you stood within a galaxy deep inside one of them, the night sky would look different. Fewer neighboring galaxies, less distant light, a feeling of solitude. At first glance, we might think a void is a failure of creation, a forgotten region, a flaw in the design. But cosmologists have discovered that voids are not deficiencies. They have edges, they have shapes. They possess their own subtle dynamics. They expand slowly, pushing matter toward the galactic walls that surround them. In other words, even nothing participates in the greater motion. There is something quietly astonishing in that. For in our own lives, we often fear emptiness. We fear silent evenings, unspoken pauses, seasons when we do not know where we are going. We rush to fill them with noise, with work, with endless narratives. But perhaps the universe is teaching something different. In the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu wrote, 30 spokes share the wheel's hub. It is the center hole that makes it useful. It is the empty space at the center that allows the wheel to turn. Cosmic voids are like that. They contain few galaxies, yet because of them, the cosmic web gains its clarity. Without voids, everything would be an undifferentiated mass. Carl Jung once wrote in the Red Book, "The spirit of the depths even taught me to consider my action and my decision as dependent on dreams." There are depths that cannot be filled by surface activity. There are silences that play a quiet but essential role. If you are passing through a season that feels empty, try seeing it with the eyes of a cosmologist. A void is not the end of structure. It is part of the structure. A void does not oppose existence. It shapes it. In meditation, one does not attempt to stuff the mind with thoughts. Instead, one observes the space between them, between two breaths, between two heartbeats. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." A retreat. Perhaps cosmic voids are retreats on a grand scale. No dense blaze of light. No constant collisions, only space. And that space allows other structures to be seen more clearly. Think of this when you feel yourself in a void of life. A relationship ended, an old chapter closed, a future not yet formed. At first it may feel like drifting in emptiness, few anchors, little light. But perhaps within that openness, you are being restructured. Cosmic voids are not completely empty. They still contain sparse matter, lonely galaxies, very slow motion. Silence is not death. Emptiness is not nothingness. Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "I love him whose soul is deep even in the wounding. Depth often walks alongside darkness, but that darkness may hold a form of order not yet visible." As you lie here listening to this slow voice, there may also be a void within your mind, a space not yet named. Do not rush to fill it. Let it breathe. Let it widen gently like a region of space expanding. Let thoughts drift toward its edges as matter is drawn away from the center of a void. And at the center, let there be quiet. In that quiet, you are not erased. You do not disappear. You are simply in another part of the structure. The universe is not made only of brilliance. It is shaped by absence as well. And perhaps to understand the whole, we must learn to love both. Light and darkness, fullness and emptiness, motion and stillness. As the night deepens, as galaxies continue their silent turning, as cosmic voids slowly expand, you may allow yourself to do nothing at all. Just be there, like a small point within a vast openness, yet still belonging to a structure far deeper than what can be seen. And within that openness, there is a kind of peace that does not need to be filled with anything at all. After the immense emptiness of cosmic voids, we may think we have grown accustomed to vastness. And then, science reveals something else, a structure so enormous that it slows every thought. It is called the Hercules Corona Borealis Great Wall, a long name for something even longer. This structure was identified through the distribution of gamma-ray bursts billions of light-years away. When astronomers mapped them, they realized the bursts were not randomly scattered. They seemed to trace a wall stretching so far it may exceed 10 billion light-years. Pause for a moment. 10 billion light-years. The number is not merely large. It escapes intuition. And what unsettled scientists was not only its size, but what it implied. According to the cosmological principle on sufficiently large scales, the universe should be homogeneous. There should not be structures too immense beyond a certain limit. But if this great wall exists as observed, then perhaps our model is not complete. Not entirely wrong, simply not yet wide enough. Albert Einstein once wrote in a letter in 1936, "The most incomprehensible thing about the universe is that it is comprehensible." The universe can be understood, but never entirely. Each time we believe we have finished drawing the map, a new contour appears. The Great Wall is like a line beyond the frame of the canvas. It does not destroy the painting. It asks us to widen the frame. And here lies a gentle lesson. In your own life, you may have encountered such walls, experiences too vast, emotions beyond your former concepts, events that forced you to admit your inner map was incomplete. The first response is often anxiety. If my model is wrong, what do I truly understand? But perhaps the danger is not in being mistaken. It is in framing too tightly. Karl Popper wrote, "In conjectures and refutations, our knowledge can only be finite while our ignorance must necessarily be infinite." Knowledge is always limited, and that limitation is what keeps the journey alive. The Hercules Corona Borealis Great Wall is not a declaration that the universe is chaotic. It is a reminder that we are still in the midst of understanding. Like a mountain climber reaching a high ridge and discovering there are higher peaks beyond. Not despair, only humility. Nietzsche wrote in The Gay Science, "The world is deep, deeper than day can comprehend. There are depths that reveal themselves only when we step beyond former limits. The Great Wall. If it exists as observed is such a depth. And what is intriguing is this: it is not a barrier. It does not block light or matter. It is merely a description of how structures are arranged. The wall is language. Perhaps within your own mind there are walls that are only names for what you have not yet understood. When confronted with something immense, you may contract, or you may expand." Carl Jung wrote in Aion, "The shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases. There is no single model for every circumstance, no single frame for all reality. And the universe with its great wall seems to whisper, do not rush to believe you have seen it all. As you lie here in this gentle darkness, let that thought settle. Even science, the most rigorous system of human thought, continues adjusting itself before new discoveries. If science can remain flexible, perhaps you can as well. There may be experiences in your life larger than your previous concepts. Questions that do not fit the frame you built. Instead of seeing them as threats, see them as invitations. Invitations to widen. The Great Wall does not destroy the universe. It expands its story. And you, a small being in a small galaxy within a supercluster in an expanding universe, may expand your story too. No haste required. No need to explain everything. Simply allow yourself to dwell within that uncertainty. The universe continues moving. Structures continue forming. And however vast the Great Wall may be, it is still only a part of a picture, even larger. You do not need to comprehend the entire painting to belong within it. It is enough to know that your existence is itself a wonder amid structures beyond measure. And in this quiet night, as questions soften, perhaps the most beautiful thing is not the size of the wall, but the capacity of the human mind to keep asking about it. After walls so vast, they stretch beyond prediction after structures that challenge our models tonight. We enter something stranger still. Not something too large to grasp, but something that cannot be seen. Astronomers have observed the motion of galaxies. They notice that stars at the outer edges move far faster than the visible mass can explain. By ordinary logic, those galaxies should fly apart. But they do not. They are held together by something that emits no light, reflects no light, interacts with no light. That something is called dark matter. It is estimated that only about 5% of the universe is ordinary matter, the kind that forms stars, planets, your body. Roughly 27% is dark matter, and the rest is dark energy. In other words, most of the universe is unseen. Let that thought settle slowly. Most of reality does not shine, yet it is what keeps everything in place. William James wrote in The Varieties of Religious Experience, "Our normal waking consciousness is but one special type of consciousness, whilst all about it there lie potential forms of consciousness entirely different. Our waking awareness is only a small portion. Behind it lie deeper layers. Dark matter in the universe may be something like that depth. We do not touch it directly. We do not see it, but we see its consequences. Galaxies hold their form. Clusters do not dissolve. The cosmic web does not collapse. Invisible forces bind it all. So it is in your life. There are beliefs you never name. Memories you do not clearly recall, emotions you never speak aloud, and yet they shape how you move, how you respond, how you love. Carl Jung called this the unconscious. He wrote in Psychology and Religion, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. What is invisible is not without influence. On the contrary, it may be foundational. Dark matter is not a negative darkness. It is not a flaw. It is a foundation. Without it, galaxies would not exist as they do. Without the unseen depths within you, you would not be yourself. Perhaps you once tried to trust only what is visible, only data, only surfaces. But the universe whispers that the surface is not the whole story. In Meditations, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good. Look within." Dark matter, in a sense, is the within of the cosmos. Not surface light, but hidden mass shaping every orbit. Perhaps within you there is such hidden mass. Values you need not display. Quiet loyalties. Longings that do not require applause. They do not shine like stars, but they hold your structure together. What is remarkable is this: we have not yet directly detected dark matter. We infer it from its effects. There is humility in that. Science is willing to say we do not see it, but the evidence suggests it is there. You may learn from that. You do not need to see every layer of yourself to acknowledge that deeper layers exist. You do not need full understanding to accept that the unseen has value. As you lie in this gentle darkness, consider the invisible forces supporting you. Earth's gravity, the magnetic field shielding you from radiation, your immune system working silently, your heart beating without command. Most of your life is not consciously controlled, and most of the universe is unseen. Nietzsche wrote in Beyond Good and Evil, invisible threads are the strongest ties. Invisible threads are the strongest bonds. Perhaps dark matter is the invisible thread binding galaxies together, and perhaps in your life there are such threads as well. Quiet trust, unadorned love, promises that need not be shouted. They do not blaze like stars, but they keep your world from flying apart. As the night deepens, as you begin to drift into stillness, allow yourself not to fear the dark. Darkness is not always the absence of light. Sometimes it is the ground of all light. The universe is not only what we see, and you are not only what others perceive. There are parts of you, invisible, silent, yet essential. And in acknowledging that there is a very gentle peace, you do not need to shine at all times. You do not need to be the center. Sometimes it is enough to be the unseen foundation of yourself. Like dark matter unseen, yet holding entire galaxies in their rightful orbit. We have passed through what holds galaxies together, the invisible forces that quietly keep their orbits from dissolving. But tonight, let us look at a different motion. Not attraction, but expansion. At the end of the 20th century, when astronomers observed distant supernovae, they expected something quite reasonable, that the universe was expanding, yes, but that the expansion should be slowing with time, because the gravity of all matter would be pulling everything back together. But the data revealed the opposite. The universe is not slowing. It is accelerating, as though an invisible force were pushing space itself to widen faster with each passing moment. That force is called dark energy. We do not see it. We do not measure it directly. We only observe its effect in the way distant galaxies drift away ever more quickly. Einstein once added a term to his equations, the cosmological constant, to keep the universe static. Later, he called it the biggest blunder of my life. But perhaps it was not a mistake, only premature. The universe is not static. It is opening. And what is profound here is not only the physics, it is the humility. We do not know why. We do not know the true nature of dark energy. Is it a property of space itself? A field permeating the vacuum? Or something even stranger? And in that not knowing there is a softness. Socrates in Plato's Apology is recorded as saying, "I know that I know nothing." Perhaps this is one of the cosmology's clearest moments of that spirit. We know the universe is accelerating, but we do not know why. In your own life, are there movements like this? Seasons when everything seems to change faster than you can comprehend. Relationships drifting apart. Dreams widening. Old maps no longer fitting. You may try to hold things still like gravity, trying to hold galaxies together. But sometimes another force is at work. Not against you, simply expanding your space. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Time is a sort of river of passing events, and strong is its current." Time is a river, the universe as well. It does not pause so that we may fully understand it before it moves. It moves, and we learn as it flows. Dark energy carries galaxies farther apart. One day, if acceleration continues, galaxies beyond our local group will slip beyond the observable horizon. The night sky of future civilizations may be far darker than ours. They may not see the vast cosmic tapestry we see now. There is a gentle sadness in that thought, but also a lesson. Every moment of observation is temporary. Every structure is in transformation. Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "All things are in flux. They are like water that flows. Everything is flowing. The universe does not collapse into stillness. It unfolds. And so do you. Perhaps you once believed stability was the ultimate aim, that everything must remain unchanged to be safe. But dark energy whispers something different. That expansion is not loss. That acceleration is not always chaos. That sometimes what sustains you is not an answer, but the willingness to remain within the question." Carl Jung wrote in the Red Book, "You are afraid of the depths, but the depths are within you." Expansion may feel unsettling, yet it is also where new possibilities appear. If the universe can accept its own unfolding into the unknown, perhaps you can as well. As you lie here, imagine the space between galaxies quietly widening. No noise, no drama, just a subtle stretching. Your breath does the same. Inhale. Your chest opens. Exhale. Softening. Expansion is not only a cosmological event, it is the motion of life. And though we do not know what dark energy truly is, we know it is at work. Like many forces in your life that you do not fully understand yet still feel. Not every unseen thing is a threat. Sometimes it is the force that makes you larger. As the night deepens, let the thought that the universe is accelerating not trouble you. Let it soften you. You do not need to control the whole motion. You do not need to know every answer. The universe continues to expand. Galaxies continue to drift apart, and you in this quiet room are also opening in your own way. No haste required. Only allowance. For between attraction and expansion, between dark matter and dark energy, between gravity and widening space, there exists a field spacious enough for you to breathe. After seeing galaxies drift away, after learning that most of the universe is invisible, after understanding that space itself is accelerating outward, a very simple question returns. If the universe is so vast, so filled with stars, and has existed for so long, why has no one answered? In 1950, during a casual lunch, Enrico Fermi asked it plainly, "Where is everybody?" There was nothing poetic in the question. It was almost practical. If intelligent life is not exceedingly rare, if technology can arise within a few million years, a blink compared to cosmic time, then surely we should see some sign. Radio signals, grand engineering works, technological traces, and yet the night sky remains silent. Projects like SETI have listened quietly for decades. Giant antennas turn toward the void, computers scanning millions of frequencies. In 2019, a signal was recorded BLC-1, a narrow, steady frequency coming from the direction of Proxima Centauri. For a brief moment, human imagination trembled. But further analysis suggested it was likely interference from Earth's own technology. Hope folded back in on itself, and the silence continued. There is something deeply human in this story. We are not merely searching for life out there. We are searching for an answer, an echo, a sign that we are not alone. Albert Camus wrote in The Myth of Sisyphus, "The absurd is born of this confrontation between the human need and the unreasonable silence of the world. The absurd arises when human longing meets the unreasonable silence of the world. Perhaps the Fermi Paradox is that moment on a cosmic scale. We ache to hear another voice, and the universe does not respond. But silence is not always refusal. Perhaps civilizations destroy themselves before they can spread. Perhaps distances are too immense. Perhaps others choose silence. Or perhaps we are listening in the wrong way. There are questions that do not yield immediate answers. There are silences that are not meant to wound. As you lie here, notice the quiet in your room. No voices from beyond. No strange signal. Only space. That silence is not emptiness. It is the ground upon which any sound may arise. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny." Perhaps this silence too is part of the pattern. Perhaps what makes humanity remarkable is not that we possess answers, but that we continue to ask. Carl Sagan said in Cosmos, "The cosmos is within us. We are made of star stuff. We are a way for the universe to know itself." If this is so, then even if no one else replies, the universe is still becoming aware through you. The Fermi Paradox may not be an accusation against the cosmos. It may be an invitation to look inward. If we truly are alone, then every action of ours carries greater weight. If no one else is listening, then our listening to one another becomes sacred. Nietzsche wrote in "Thus spoke Zarathustra," "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Perhaps humanity's why is not to be answered from outside, but to continue seeking, to keep turning the antenna of the mind toward the unknown. As the night deepens, let the question not trouble you. Where is everybody? Perhaps the answer will never come. Perhaps it will arrive in 1,000,000 years. Or perhaps we are that rare answer. A small civilization on a small planet in an ordinary galaxy wondering about its own existence. The silence of the universe does not diminish the question. It refines it. And as you prepare to drift into sleep, let that silence surround you. Not as loneliness, but as a vast sky. You do not need a signal from elsewhere to know that you are here. This heartbeat, this breath. In the silence of the cosmos, there is a gentle truth. You are present, and that in itself is already an answer. If the sky is silent, perhaps it is not because no one ever spoke. Perhaps they once did. And then they were no longer there. In recent years, scientists have broadened the search for intelligent life, not only listening for radio signals, but looking for technosignatures, traces of technology, an atmosphere with unusual chemical composition, a star dimmed by a vast artificial structure, a planet radiating excess heat without natural explanation, signs of intelligence. Yet alongside that hope is another idea quieter. If there are technosignatures, there may also be necrosignatures, signs of death. A planet whose atmosphere is thick with nitrogen dioxide hinting at nuclear war. A world with extreme carbon levels suggesting ecological collapse. A star system with disrupted orbits pointing toward technological catastrophe. There may have been civilizations that reached toward the sky and then erased themselves. The thought is both sorrowful and still. Shelley wrote in Ozymandias, "Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair, nothing beside remains." A civilization may believe it is enduring, that its achievements will last forever, but time is not partial, and the universe does not remember in the way humans hope. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Soon you will have forgotten all things. Soon all things will have forgotten you." Finitude does not belong only to individuals. It may belong to civilizations. If there were worlds that once flourished, that developed science, art, philosophy, that looked up at their skies and asked the same questions we ask and then vanished, that possibility makes this present moment deeper, not because of fear, but because of awareness. Carl Jung wrote in Ion, "The greater the light, the greater the shadow. The more advanced, the more complex, the greater the capacity for self-destruction." Technology is light, but it carries shadow. If civilizations out there went too far without balance, the universe may hold their invisible ruins. Not stone remains, but altered orbits. Strange atmospheric spectra. Star systems quieter than expected. And amid all this, Earth continues to turn. We continue to breathe. There is fragility in the thought that we may not be the first civilization. But there is beauty as well. For if others once existed, we are not only seekers, we are inheritors. Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "What is great in man is that he is a bridge and not a goal." Perhaps what is great in a civilization is not that it lasts forever, but that it becomes a bridge between inert matter and consciousness, between stars and questions. As you lie here in this gentle darkness, imagine that if civilizations have vanished, they once had nights like this. Beings who looked upward and felt small. Stories, music, fears, and hopes. And whether they remain or not, the fact that they once existed is part of the universe's history. You need not carry the fate of humanity tonight, but you may recognize the preciousness of the present. If the universe is silent because voices have fallen quiet, then each voice still sounding is more sacred. Albert Camus wrote in The Myth of Sisyphus, "The struggle itself is enough to fill a man's heart. Perhaps meaning does not lie in lasting forever, but in living fully within the time we are given." The cosmos may contain invisible graveyards, civilizations that once blazed and then faded softly. But tonight in this room, a small civilization is still awake, still questioning, still searching. And in your slow breathing, there is something very simple. You are here, not as an eternal monument, not as an indestructible structure, simply as a being experiencing this moment. And perhaps amid countless possibilities that once bloomed and vanished, that is wondrous enough. There are questions that make us lift our eyes toward the sky, and there are questions that turn us inward. After all the galaxies, the colossal structures, the civilizations that may have gone silent tonight, we return to what is closest. Consciousness. Ludwig Boltzmann. A 19th century physicist studied entropy, the gradual increase of disorder in a closed system. He suggested that in a universe vast enough and old enough, random fluctuations might for a fleeting moment give rise to complex structures. From that idea, a strange hypothesis emerged. If time is infinite and fluctuations are possible, then a fully formed brain, complete with memory, sensation, awareness, might spontaneously arise from thermal equilibrium. A Boltzmann brain. A solitary mind floating in the void, believing it has a past, believing it lives in a stable world, when in truth, everything is only a temporary configuration of particles. The thought unsettles, not because we have evidence that it is so, but because it questions the foundation. What guarantees that you are not a random fluctuation? What guarantees that your memories are real? René Descartes wrote in Meditations on First Philosophy, "I will suppose, therefore, that some malicious demon of the utmost power and cunning has employed all his energies in order to deceive me. He doubted everything, the external world, the body, memory, and yet he found a foothold, cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am." Even if deceived, the act of thinking proved the existence of the thinker. The Boltzmann brain seems to unsettle even that comfort. For if consciousness is merely a random fluctuation, then the I may be nothing more than a temporary arrangement. But let us slow down. The hypothesis, however intriguing mathematically, is not something we have evidence is occurring. And even if only if your awareness were a random fluctuation, this experience would still be experienced. William James wrote in The Principles of Psychology, "Thought is itself the thinker. The stream of thought is the thinker." Perhaps instead of asking, "Is reality real?" we may ask more gently, "What does this experience mean right now?" If you were a brain fluctuating in a vacuum, the sensation of your breath would still be real to you. If memory were a fragile configuration, the feeling you are feeling would still carry weight within that configuration. There is a strange beauty in accepting uncertainty. Nietzsche wrote in The Gay Science, "We, however, want to become those we are, not what we are certain we are, but what we are becoming." The Boltzmann brain presents an extreme question. Is the entire history of the universe an illusion? But perhaps the deeper question is this: if everything could be uncertain, how would you still choose to live? Carl Jung wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, "The least of things with a meaning is worth more in life than the greatest of things without it. Even the smallest thing imbued with meaning is worth more than the greatest thing without it." Whether the cosmos is a structure evolving over 13.8 billion years or a fleeting fluctuation, the meaning you create is the meaning you experience. As you lie here, feel your existence not as a philosophical argument, but as a gentle fact. You are listening. You are breathing. You are feeling. Anxiety may arise when we seek absolute foundations, but perhaps foundation is not perfect certainty. It is presence. In meditation, one does not attempt to solve every metaphysical question. One simply returns to the breath. The Boltzmann brain may be a thought experiment, but this breath is not. It is happening. If reality is layered upon layers, if memory is fragile, if awareness is fluctuation, the very fact that you are aware of this is already wondrous. The universe may be uncertain, but this moment is being experienced, and within that experiencing there is a quiet that is undeniably real. You do not need to resolve every metaphysical possibility. You do not need to be certain that you are not a temporary configuration. It is enough to know that right now you are here, and whether the result of long evolution or a brief fluctuation, this moment may still be lived with gentleness. And perhaps amid all the unease of consciousness, that is already a sufficient answer. After passing through the random fluctuations of the Boltzmann brain tonight, we take one step further. If consciousness can be fragile, is reality certain? There is an idea now discussed seriously in both philosophy and modern physics. What if this entire universe is only a simulation? The simulation hypothesis suggests that a sufficiently advanced civilization might create models of reality so detailed that the beings within them believe they are living in the real world. If technology continues to grow exponentially, if consciousness can be encoded, if matter at its deepest layer is information, then this possibility is not entirely irrational. Nick Bostrom once argued that if advanced civilizations create many simulations, then the probability that we are in the base layer may be low. But let us slow down. This idea is not merely about computers. It is about layers of reality. If this world is one layer, there may be another outside it, and beyond that layer, perhaps another still. Like dreams within dreams. In Meditations on First Philosophy, Descartes asked, "How often asleep at night am I convinced of just such familiar events that I am here in my dressing gown sitting by the fire, when in fact I am lying undressed in bed?" How many times do we believe we are awake, while in truth we are dreaming? The simulation hypothesis is simply a technologically advanced version of that ancient doubt. Alongside it stands another idea, born from quantum mechanics: the many worlds. Interpretation. In this view, whenever a quantum event has multiple possible outcomes, all possibilities occur, each within its own branch of reality. There is no collapse of the wave function, only branching. That would mean that somewhere within the vast structure of the multiverse there may be another version of you. A you who chose differently. A you who spoke different words. A you living in another circumstance. The thought is both wondrous and unsettling. If there are countless versions of you, are you still special? Nietzsche wrote in The Gay Science. Have you ever said yes to a single joy? Oh, my friends, then you said yes too to all woe. If every possibility exists, each choice still carries weight within its branch. There may be another version of you elsewhere, but no one else is living this moment, exactly as you are. Carl Jung wrote in The Undiscovered Self, "The world hangs on a thin thread, and that is the psyche of man. However many layers reality may have, however many branches may unfold, your experience in this branch remains singular from within." The simulation hypothesis asks, is this world the ultimate foundation? Many worlds asks, is this the only branch? But perhaps a gentler question is this: does it change the way you breathe right now? Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Whether the world is a simulation or the base layer, whether there is one universe or infinitely many, you still have stewardship over your mind. You still have the capacity to choose how you respond, how you love, how you remain present. If reality is a layer, this moment is a point of light within it. If there are countless universes, this branch is still unfolding." William James wrote in Pragmatism, "Truth is what works." Perhaps we do not need to know whether we are in a simulation or in the original layer. What matters is that this reality works well enough for you to experience it. As you lie here, imagine that this world is a thin surface floating upon an endless ocean. There is no need for fear. Even if it is a simulation, this warmth is still warm. This breath is still breath. This calm is still calm. If there are countless versions of you, this version is the one listening now. And perhaps what gives this moment meaning is not that it is unique in the entire cosmos, but that it is unique to you. The universe may have layers, reality may branch, but in this layer, in this branch, the night is quiet, and you are here. You do not need to know whether someone is running this program. You do not need to imagine the infinite other versions. Simply allow yourself to be fully within this layer of reality. Gently, for whether simulation or foundation, whether one universe or many, this moment may still be lived with peace. And perhaps amid all the layers of reality, that presence is the closest thing to a foundation we truly need. And now, after we have passed through immense walls, vast emptiness, the invisible forces that hold and push galaxies, civilizations that may have gone silent, hypotheses that tremble beneath the structure of reality itself, the voice may slow, not to explain more, not to gather everything together, only to set it down. You do not need to understand it all. The universe is still expanding. Space continues to stretch between galaxies. Stars still burn quietly within their cores. Great structures still drift under unseen gravity. All of this unfolds whether or not you grasp it. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Everything that happens is either endurable or not. If it is endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining. The universe does not require you to comprehend it in order to belong within it. It asks only that you be present." After all the questions about life, about consciousness, about simulation and multiverse, perhaps what is deepest is not the answer, but this feeling, the feeling of being apart. Carl Sagan once wrote in Cosmos, "We are made of star stuff." You do not stand outside the structure of the universe. You are not a distant observer. You are an expression of that structure itself. The atoms in your body were forged in the cores of stars long gone. The heavy elements in your blood were once light. So when you look up at the night sky, it is not a small being gazing at the infinite. It is the universe looking back at itself. William James wrote in The Will to Believe, in the deepest heart of all of us, there is a corner in which the ultimate mystery of things works sadly. There is a quiet corner within the heart where mystery labors softly. You do not need to resolve that mystery, only to accept that it is there. Perhaps you will never know whether we are alone, whether the universe has layers, whether consciousness is fundamental or fleeting. But you know one thing. This breath is happening. This heartbeat is real. And right now, amid colossal structures and profound hypotheses, there is a very simple moment. You are here. The universe continues its motion. Galaxies still drift toward unseen attractors. Dark energy still widens the fabric of space. But tonight, you do not need to keep pace with them. Let every question soften. Let every concept dissolve like red-shifted light fading from a distant galaxy. You are not small in the sense of being forgotten. You are small in the sense of being precise, like a single note in a cosmic symphony. And that symphony does not require you to understand its entire composition in order to be heard. As your eyes gently close, carry with you not knowledge but feeling. The feeling that within a universe vast and still unfolding, you hold a quiet place. Not at the center, not at the edge, simply here, and that is enough.